Greetings to all of you. I would like to talk about the upcoming full moon on April 12th. And remember that this full moon is following the new moon, which was a partial solar eclipse on March 29th, that came in the midst of all these significant shifts in March. Our movement out of the Kali Yuga, that time of our lowest level of consciousness in the Yuga cycle, into this accelerating, ascending consciousness. We also experience the emergence of Venus coming out of the underworld, the most intense time of her cycle and her experience of transformation, guiding us to open to the way in which the energies and wisdom of the sacred feminine are rising out of being suppressed and repressed in the underworld, to come back more fully into our consciousness, to guide us into coming more into balance and harmony. At the same time, this came in the context of the ongoing transformation of Mars, which is occurring, that I'll talk a little bit more about later in this video. But we are in such a profound time where we're being guided to change our ways of being, our sense of identity, the ways in which we act, the ways in which we relate to each other. And then on March 30th, Neptune moved into Aries, guiding us to dream new ways of being and to be envisioning what these new paradigms can be as we're moving into the Aquarian age. There's so much to talk about here, but I want to just stress that these phases of the lunar cycle are coming in the context of these larger shifts that are really supporting us and guiding us as we're moving out of the Kali Yuga, moving into the Aquarian age and this time of ascending consciousness. So we're feeling the intensity of the shifts, and we're also seeing the tumult in the world as those old forms and paradigms and structures, the power over paradigms of the patriarchal period, are in their process of deconstructing for us to move into new paradigms, new forms. But in the midst of this transition time, some are trying to hold on to those old paradigms in such a fierce and tenacious way, even though we need to remember and know all of that is shifting and we are moving in to higher consciousness and new paradigms and new ways of being and new ways of experiencing ourselves and each other and new ways of being in community as we move into co-creating a new earth together. But in the context of all of this, let's look at what messages this full moon has for us in this time. Let's look at the chart. So you can see at the time of this full moon that the moon is at 23 degrees of Libra, the sun at 23 degrees of Aries. And I think it's significant at the time of this full moon that the sun will be conjunct both Eris Xena and Chiron. Again, with this theme of how we are healing as we're moving through this time of transformation. And they are also squaring Mars. Mars is in this T square with the sun and moon. We're continuing to be in this time of healing those out of balanced expressions of Mars that have come out of the age of Aries and continued through the age of Pisces, that is about our getting caught in power over paradigms, caught in ego, caught in these destructive expressions of Mars, our actions, our ways of being in the world. Mars is now continuing to be in Cancer and has been squaring Chiron and Eris Xena since January and will continue in that square until April 18th, when Mars moves back into Leo and then is in opposition with Pluto. So Mars has been for months now in this dynamic, moving in and out of opposition with Pluto, in this square with Eris Xena and Chiron, calling Mars to transform, to heal, guiding us in how to step out of those destructive ways of acting and being caught in that perpetrator victim dynamic, to reclaim Mars in a more balanced way, and with Mars in Cancer, to act from compassion and not from power over or competition or ego or exploitation of others. So we're very much in that ongoing dynamic of healing our actions with the sun, healing our sense of self to move in new directions with Eris Xena. I also want to just move briefly to look at the chart with some of the other Kuiper Belt objects and other dwarf planets to highlight that the moon at this time is in an out of sign conjunction with Lilith and also with Haumea. Haumea is in a square with Pluto and will continue to be in a square with Pluto because of the way in which their orbits are in synchronicity with each other. Haumea will be squaring Pluto within a 5-degree orb until March of 2036. And then it will continue to square Pluto in a bit wider orb, a 6-degree orb, for months after that. But I think what we're seeing here is Pluto is transforming our relationship with Mars and guiding us out of those out of balance paradigms of the age of Aries to move more fully into the paradigms of the Aquarian age, with Pluto guiding us in Aquarius. But this square with Haumea, and Haumea in Scorpio, that energy of transformation. And Haumea is that Hawaiian creation goddess who knows how to shapeshift, to regenerate, to bring new life into being. So this square is powerfully about the earth in her own regenerative process to transform, come back into balance, be in our own process of ascension, but it's also guiding us in how we are shapeshifting. We are in a process of transformation to be able to move into these new paradigms of the Aquarian age, to become Homo luminous ones, beings of light, to move into higher consciousness. And I think it's significant that Black Moon Lilith is now in a conjunction with Haumea and will be there until in conjunction with Haumea until mid-June. But now is a powerful part of this full moon. It is about remembering the meaning of Black Moon Lilith, which is the connection to ancient sacred feminine wisdom, guiding us in how to be in relationship with true respect and mutuality. Again, these energies are speaking to how we're meant to move out of these patterns of competition, of being caught in ego, of harming each other or exploiting each other or using each other or manipulating each other for our own ends, to remember how to come back into right relationship, true mutuality, true respect and compassion for each other. So coming back to the chart that's easier to see, those are huge energies that are guiding us in how we're in this time of transition and transformation. I think it's also significant that the moon is in a trine with Jupiter. The sun is in a sextile with Jupiter. Jupiter continues in Gemini to guide us into new ways of understanding the world around us, new ways of understanding ourselves, new ways of thinking about things, Gemini, but also how to have faith and trust in these new directions that we're moving into. And we continue to see this powerful dynamic with all these energies in Pisces as Venus is now emerged as a morning star, continues to be conjunct Saturn and the North Node and Mercury, all in an out of sign conjunction with Neptune. And Neptune and Saturn will soon be moving into their conjunction with each other in Aries beginning in May, but then coming into exact conjunction in February, guiding us to envision these new forms and new ways of being and bring them into form as they come into conjunction together in Aries. So this is such a powerful time of transformation. And the meaning of the Sabian symbol for the sun at 23 degrees of Aries is that this is a time when we're meant to envision what we hope to experience. It's echoing that theme of Neptune and Aries. What are we allowing ourselves to dream, to envision these new ways of being of the age of Aquarius? We may not know yet the full form and outcome, but this is a time where we're meant to be dissolving the paradigms of the past. Neptune in Aries dissolving those out of balanced paradigms of power over from the age of Aries to be envisioning this new earth that we can co-create with the earth and sky, with each other, as we come into right relationship with each other and come from our hearts with compassion. The meaning of the Sabian symbol of the moon at 23 degrees of Libra is about surrendering our self-importance to be able to express compassion in how we are in relationship with each other, Libra, to align with truth, the deeper meaning of Libra, that energy of Ma'at, aligning with what is true and just, right harmony, right relationship. And in the process, then, being able to express who we are in our own uniqueness. So we're in this process with this full moon of envisioning what can be coming from our hearts, surrendering that sense of ego and self-importance to be in a place of compassion and love and collaboration with each other to bring our unique expression into the world, to be supporting the co-creation of this new earth together. And let's now look at where these energies are in the sky at the time of this full moon. What's extraordinary is in the sky, this full moon will be right next to Spica, which is that bright star in the constellation Virgo. That is that star that is in the sheaf of wheat of the harvest goddess. The meaning of this star is, how are we bringing our gifts out in the world to be of service to others? So this full moon is guiding us to let go of being identified with our ego, caught in our own self-importance, to align with our hearts and with compassion, to then be in our own unique expression of our gifts, to be of service to others, to be of service in the world. And the sun at the time of this full moon is in the stars of Pisces, very close to the star that is known as the sacred knot, connecting the two fish. The star is Alresha. The meaning of the sun being close to that sacred knot is that these two fish of Pisces, one is swimming off the ecliptic, one along the ecliptic. It's really symbolic of how are we connecting to our spirituality, but living it in our day-to-day reality as we're moving along in this experience on the earth plane. So again, we're being guided to envision what we hope to experience, but then be living it out in how we are in our day-to-day lives, the actions that we take, how we interact with each other, how we are coming from being in right relationship with each other and with our connection with spirit as we're moving into higher consciousness. And all those energies of Neptune, Venus, Mercury, Saturn, all in conjunction with each other, are here in the stars of Pisces along the ecliptic, again, supporting us in how we're envisioning these new forms and bringing it into our actions and ways of thinking and being in the world. I think it's also significant that Mars, squaring the sun and moon, is here between the stars of Cancer and Gemini, guiding us to be in this transition process with Mars that is both about how are we coming from compassion, Cancer, but also in its closeness to the stars of Gemini, how are we coming into that way in which we can be in compassion with each other and move out of polarization, move out of conflict, back into that capacity to honor the light and dark within us and in all that is, and to move beyond duality and polarization. And Jupiter at the time of this full moon is between the horns of the bull of Taurus. Again, as Jupiter's guiding us to have faith and move into new beliefs and ways of seeing and ways of knowing, it's supporting us in moving beyond polarity and beyond that way in which we get caught in conflict and competition with each other. So this full moon is another expression of this profound shift that we're in as we're reconfiguring our experience of Mars connected to the third chakra, our sense of self, how we act in the world. As we're moving out of the Kali Yuga, we are reconfiguring our sense of our identity and moving from an idealization of the third chakra and identification with ego and aligning with those power over dynamics to moving more and more fully into connecting with our hearts. Remember, Venus is the planet associated with the heart. As she's emerged from the underworld in this most powerful time in her 584-day cycle, to emerge again as a morning star, to be at her brightest, she emerged in the sign of Pisces and in the stars of Pisces, guiding us to move out of this over idealization of out of balance Mars, power over, competition, conquest, ego, identification with the third chakra, to move into aligning with the energy of our heart chakra and coming back into compassion with and for each other, to be able to come back into relationship with Pisces, the oneness of all that is, to remember that we are spiritual beings having this earthly experience, so that then we can remember that we are soul selves and bring our alignment back to our hearts to be in right relationship with ourselves and with each other and with all of life. When we come from our hearts, we're able to connect to that unified field of cosmic consciousness and access other ways of knowing. And then we allow our heart chakras and that energy of Venus and of the sacred feminine to inform how we act, to allow our actions in the world not to come from power over an ego, but to come from compassion and right relationship and that remembrance of how to be in harmony with all that is, Libra. So we're on this path of moving into ascending consciousness, reclaiming our connections with the sacred feminine, revising our understanding of Mars and how we express ourselves in the world to move more and more rapidly into new forms. In the midst of the tumult in the world, I think it's helpful to hold this faith, Jupiter in the larger vision, and to remember that Neptune in Aries is guiding us into envisioning new ways of being. As we can hold that faith and trust that these energies of the planets and the sky and the earth are guiding us through this time of transformation and transmutation into new forms, we can hold that faith and hope and trust in the midst of the storminess of these times. These are tumultuous times as we're in this intense transition and transformation. And yet we are being held and supported, loved and guided by these energies of the earth and sky and our spirit guides and animal guides and plant allies to move into new forms and new ways of being. And as we navigate that, remember that part of what's so important to move into these Aquarian paradigms is to honor our connections with each other in community and to be supporting each other in these shifts. I've been reflecting across the past few days on both how stormy and tumultuous these times are as we see some of the most intense shadow aspects of those out of balanced expressions of Mars and the patriarchal paradigms of this last 5,000 years playing out in the world right now. And yet, at the same time, I am at times moved to tears by the increasing awakening and healing and movement into higher consciousness that is happening around the globe, and the increasing way that we are connecting with each other from our hearts and coming out of identification with ego and relating to each other with compassion. Part of the shadow aspect of the patriarchal period is not only these power over paradigms, but this way in which too often our relationships with each other, whether they're professional relationships or personal relationships, got shaped by this paradigm of relationships being transactional. I'll give you this to get that. I will support you in this way if you support me in this way. How are we coming into relationship with each other so that we're each getting what we need from this relationship? But as we're letting those paradigms of the patriarchal period dissolve, Neptune and Aries, and we're coming more from our hearts, reclaiming that wisdom of the sacred feminine that is about how are we in compassion and right relationship with each other, then we find that we relate more and more from our hearts. Like that full moon conjunct Spica, it becomes, how can I be in my own true, authentic self-expression to be of service to others and feel the joy of that, of gifting others from my heart, to be of service in helping co-create this new world, and then receiving back from others that freely given compassion and love and gifting each other from the heart. It is such a regenerative energy. It is such an energy of compassion and expansion that accelerates our movement into higher consciousness. Because as Barbara Hand Clow would say, it's when we're aligned with our hearts that we can open to those higher dimensions of consciousness. But again, it's not we're aligning with our hearts to get that higher consciousness. It's we're aligning with our hearts because we remember that is our natural way of being. And we're aligning with our hearts because of the joy of then being in right relationship and in that joy of being in our full true selves and authentic expression to be of service to others and see how those gifts expand and support others in stepping into their gifts and giving from their hearts to be of service. It is the way in which we are forming this soul tribe around the globe with that healing energetic of coming from our hearts with love that will, in fact, can, in fact, transform the world. The more we are emanating that into the morphogenic field of collective consciousness, the more we are living that in our day-to-day lives, the more we are actively co-creating this new world together. So thank you again to all of you who are a part of this community, all of us who are joining to be a part of that healing soul tribe around the globe. And let us, at the time of this full moon, in some way honor these energies and align with these energies, whether it's doing a fire ceremony to continue to release what you need to release, to open to these new ways of being, whether it's taking time in meditation. Let's each align at the time of this full moon with these energies that are filling us with this light and healing and transformational energy of higher consciousness to support us in dissolving our identification with ego, to be in our hearts and to emanate that love and compassion, to be of service in the world. Blessings and love to all of you. Blessed be.